Fox News Alert, this just in. Former Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor has died at age 93. Sandra Day O'Connor was the first woman to serve on the Supreme Court. She was appointed in 1981. She retired in 2006, a date I remember well, as then John Roberts, the current Chief Justice, replaced Rehnquist, but initially was to replace her. Her resignation came on June 30th, 2005. She had 3 children and 6 grandchildren. She passed away in Arizona. She was, as Chief Justice Roberts said, a daughter of the American Southwest. An incredible woman, and sad news as we just learned that Sandra Day O'Connor has died. Shannon Bream, our Supreme Court expert, probably knew her very well. And Shannon, thank you for jumping on the phone with us as this news has just come in.
Yes, and she was a pioneer in so many ways. I mean, you referenced her time out west and where she was from, and it was such an interesting backdrop to see her become that first female appointed to the Supreme Court. You know, she's often told the story about graduating from Stanford and not being able to get a job. No law firm would hire her as a woman. Back in the 50s and 60s, she really struggled to make it in the legal profession. So to think that she came out of school, she found a roadblock to any kind of legal career, and she just decided to plow forward and ends up on the Supreme Court. It's a really fascinating, truly American story. I mean, she went out and campaigned to become a judge because she thought, okay, this is my avenue in. She didn't win that first election. She did ultimately end up becoming a judge, but another part of her interesting background is that she actually was a lawmaker in Arizona in the state Senate. So she had a real appreciation for all of the different branches, for fighting her way into the legal profession. She had a humor and a humility about her that people really respected and loved, that she was sort of a cowgirl at heart. I mean, she talked about those things quite a bit. And then, you know, after leaving the bench, which was mostly about her husband and worrying about caring for him and his illness at that time, she didn't disappear from public life. I mean, she was out there very much pushing civic education. She worried that young Americans really weren't getting a full understanding of how government works, their role in it, what's it about, and the unique experiment that is America. So she stayed very actively involved until her own battle with dementia was what sort of ultimately sidelined her. But she wanted to keep fighting for what she thought was the best about the country, and she really thought that was going to be found in making sure that future generations understood how special our country was and what they could do to be involved to make it work.
Shannon, what are some of the big consequential decisions she was a part of on the Supreme Court?
Well, you think about the things that people will remember about her, and part of that is some of her jurisprudence on issues like abortion. And she was, in her time, often thought of very much as a swing vote on some really critical issues on all kinds of things, from affirmative action to, as I said, abortion. She was part of Bush v. Gore. I mean, she was a big part of what later became seen as Justice Anthony Kennedy's role. So there were those who were frustrated in where she fell on abortion when they wanted her to be more conservative, clearly, on that issue. And so they had really, you know, the pro-life groups, the Reagan, very conservative groups had really believed in her and wanted her on the court. So when the issue of abortion came into play, that was somewhere where she broke with the right and that they were very frustrated with her.
So much of consequence here. Bill Hemmer, of course, is with, well, he's not sitting next to me, but he is with us here. Bill Hemmer, a question
Dana,
for Shannon?
just a certain irony being here at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, Shannon. You think about the history here. And Ronald Reagan assumed the office of January of 1981. And on that day of inauguration, you had all the American hostages that were released from captivity after more than 400 days in Tehran. But outside of that, you have to think to September later of 1981, when she is appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. That was really, these were big moments in American history, and she was in the middle of all of it. And Reagan said that when he first introduced her to the American people, that she was a woman for all seasons. And I don't know if you're able to reflect on that or not, but coming from Arizona, there's kind of one season, right? Right, Shannon? But Sandra Day O'Connor, she wore so many hats and was a true American trailblazer as you look at her life today.
Mm-hmm. And really, it's always amazing to me. You look at the backstories of the Supreme Court justices, and there are so many fascinating stories like hers, like coming out of law school, not being able to find a job, really having this spirit of the West, a cowgirl who was, somebody who was not in Washington to suck up and go to all the best cocktail parties. She was really seen as somebody who was down to earth, very devoted to her family, very serious about her country and her commitment to what she was doing on the bench. But somebody who was seen as a lot of fun and had, a great personality, mischievous, great sense of humor, but a true intellect who, think about every firm that passed over her when she came out of Stanford. And by the way, Justice Rehnquist was one of her classmates, had no problem immediately getting hired. But to think that you had passed over Sandra Day O'Connor, who would become this moment in history, this person who broke the ultimate glass ceiling in the United States in our judiciary, and that she hadn't been able to get out of the gate as a Stanford graduate in the very beginning of her career.
It's amazing. I just make one more point here. Justice Roberts, in his statement, said this, Dana. He says, she met the challenge with undaunted determination, indisputable ability, and engaging candor. And Shannon, I agree with you. It was her personality that stuck out the most to me in her early days on the court. She seemed to express this ebullience and this fun that she had with life, as you just pointed out.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that came from being a very down-to-earth person. I mentioned, her background was not on this track that she immediately became a lawyer and then she, assumed a federal judicial bench seat. I mean, it wasn't the traditional path that many people think of for a Supreme Court justice. The fact that she had, she was knocked down many times, she kept fighting, she kept getting up, that she served in a state legislature. I mean, so many things that come before the court obviously deal with laws that have been passed at the state level, have been fought there at the state level. She served as a judge. And doing all of those things, I think, before she got to the court gave her an appreciation for just different viewpoints on the country, on the world, on the way that things function before they ever get to the court. It wasn't as if she'd just sort of always been at an Ivy League and ivory tower and kind of had walked onto the court. She really had different life experiences that I think gave her a totally different perspective. I think that's one of the things that President Reagan loved about putting her on the bench, knowing that she was in some ways a Washington outsider. And that was the kind of person he would want to put on the bench when he had that opportunity with her.
Shannon, I was just thinking about how consequential her decision to resign was. So on June 30th of 2005, she decided to resign. And you can tell us maybe a little bit more about her reasons for doing so. You just said she was a very down-to-earth, practical person. She loved her husband very much and he needed care. But you don't see too many retirements in Washington anymore, right? In terms of that time. And so she actually had, from 2006 until 2023, a little bit of time to reflect on her life and her time on the court, which then leads to John Roberts' nomination, which then 2 months later, on the Friday night before Labor Day of 2005, while we're in the middle of that confirmation battle for John Roberts, Chief Justice William Rehnquist passes away. And then you end up with Samuel Alito confirmed to the court by the January of that next year. I mean, really, she put a lot of things into motion.
Yeah, and just things you could not have predicted. And you're right. I mean, that gave us the man who's now been the Chief Justice since then. And think about his impact on the court. By the way, she thought that he was a very good choice because he'd argued a number of cases before the court. So when she heard that it looked like he was going to be her replacement, that was something she was very supportive of, thought that he was, had the intellectual rigor, had the skills, had everything he would need to be a good justice. But then all of those dominoes fall. You have the passing of Justice Rehnquist. And very quickly, well, I mean, the Bush administration had to then work on two confirmations, giving us both Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Alito, and she could have never known when she decided, hey, my husband needs me. I need to spend time with him and walk him through his illness and be with him. It would trigger all those other things. And as you said, I mean, giving up a Supreme Court seat in modern times is it's highly unusual. We have Justice Souter, we think about that, but we think about the pressure that was on Justice Ginsburg and how she stayed until the very end and was dedicated and said, this is my life's work, I'm not leaving. So I think it was pretty momentous when Justice O'Connor, who made history as that first woman, said, now's the time that my husband needs me, and I'm going to now fulfill what is, I believe, a joy and a privilege in now going to him, but making the history books in a whole new way with all of those things that came after.